Hey y'all. Well, as you know, the New King James Version Bible is an attempt at a revising of the King James Version, which didn't succeed. And also, with they did that in 1982. Okay. And now in 1984, they tried it again. But you really won't know which one is which, because if you take a look at the cover page here, it says, well, that's what I put there. The 1984 revision coming off as a 1982, because if you read this here, Holy Bible New King James Version, and there are ways that you can find that this is a 1984 revision, and I'll show you. 1984 will say, "What are these wounds between your arms?" And that's Zechariah chapter 13, verse 6. That really doesn't make sense, but that's what's in there. Now, if you go to an older New King James Version, in the older print, it will say, "What are these wounds in your hands?" or something of that nature. But this one doesn't. So therefore, it's a 1984 with an 85 text. Also, Matthew chapter 2, verse 3, and there are other ones too. It says, when Herod the king heard this. Okay, that's clearly a 1984-85 text. The other ones, the older ones, will have when Herod the king heard these things, just like the Authorized Version says. So, see, there's a difference. But you see no trace of it here other than it says 1982. You see the 85 Thomas Nelson copyright concordance and the maps and stuff, but you don't see the latest edition, the latest revision of this Bible.
Oh, so guess what? New King James Version. Okay, found on the table because whenever I worked here before for 10 years almost, I put Bibles off on the tables and break room tables, and people already had some. And I remember before I saw this New King James Version, I didn't want to mess with it. I left it alone, and I put a King James Version out there. I put several out there, King James Version, and people like them and stuff. They read them. But anyway, I remember leaving that out on the table, the King James Version. I remember seeing this a long time ago. It's been years since I saw this one. So anyway, I want to read to you what it says here in Zechariah chapter 13, verse 6, because it's going to be totally different from the one I read you earlier. Okay, so Zechariah 13:6, it says, "And someone will say to him, 'What are these wounds in your hands?'" The one I read you last night, from the one that my friend gave to me, it does not have that in it. And now, if we go to Matthew chapter 2, verse 3, it'll say, "When Herod the king heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him." It didn't say the one that in the other one. It didn't say that either in the one that I had from last night. So what does that show us? Okay, well, if we open the little Bible here, the New King James Version, and it says, copyright 1984 by Thomas Nelson Incorporated. Okay, so that's when the revision was supposed to be. They revised the New King James Version in 1984, but they didn't start using the text until 1985. And all the other New King James Versions that came out, they didn't change the copyright date. So everybody's thinking that, hey, the New King James Version has never been revised. But it has, because I just showed you what it just said. And even at that, this one I have here is a 1997 print. The 16th printing of 1997 is in this little book here, this little New King James Version. So, for whatever reason, New King James Version, the translators or the company, Thomas Nelson, what have you, did not, or whoever published it, did not show the revision of 1984 to 1985 with a 85 text revision. They don't show it in there. But if you have something that was printed a little earlier with the 1984 copyright, not 1985, and even at this, probably sometime after 97, 98, 99, or whatever, they started using the revised text, the text of the revision of 85, but not here. It's the from the older King James, New King James version. So that's pretty neat. So, in other words, there are two, count them, two New King James Version Bibles. There's an old New King James Version, and there's a new King James Version. And they just don't want to put, hey, we revised it in a newer editions. They don't want to put, or versions, they don't want to put it. We revised it. But you have to look all over the internet just to find it. Or if you have an older copy of the New King James Version with a newer copy of the New King James Version, you see there's a difference in the verses. So again, there are two New King James Version text out there. And the newer ones don't have the copyright dates, the new copyright dates for the revision that happened in 84 to 85. How about them apples? See you later.